Your reputation is chiseled by repetition, ladies and gentlemen. Reputation is not built in a single day. It is not crafted by one grand gesture, nor destroyed by one slip. Reputation is the slow carving of your daily actions, etched deeper and deeper into stone through repetition. Every time you keep your word, you chisel another stroke into the image people hold of you. Every time you show up on time, finish what you start, honor your promises, you're shaping your reputation into something solid, reliable, admirable. On the other hand, every time you cut corners, every time you give less than your best, every time you treat someone with carelessness, you're also chiseling, only now the sculpture doesn't look quite as noble. Here's the truth: people don't judge you by what you intend to do. They judge you by what you consistently do. You might say, I meant well, but reputation isn't built on intentions. It's built on patterns. And patterns are nothing more than repetition, repeated choices, repeated behaviors, repeated habits. Think of it like this. If you want to be known as trustworthy, you can't just keep one secret. You have to keep them all. If you want to be known as disciplined, you can't just go to the gym one morning. You must keep showing up day after day. If you want to be respected in business, you can't just deliver quality once. You must deliver quality every time. Your reputation is your shadow. You can't run faster than it. You can't hide from it. And once it's carved, it follows you everywhere, into every deal, every relationship, every opportunity. People may forget your words, but they will not forget the pattern of your behavior. Now, here's the good news. Repetition works both ways. If you've built a weak reputation, you can rebuild it. Stone can be reshaped, but it takes time, effort, and new habits of repetition. If you've been careless with commitment, start today by keeping the next one. If you've been inconsistent, start today with consistency. Small strokes, repeated faithfully, can sculpt a masterpiece. So ask yourself, what sculpture are you chiseling with your actions? What will people say when your name comes up? Will they say, hey, always delivers? Will they say, she can be counted on? Or will they hesitate? Reputation is never an accident. It's the sum total of your daily repetitions. Guard it, build it, and let every repeated action carve a reputation you will be proud to carry for the rest of your life. Reputation is built on patterns, not intentions. People remember what you do consistently, not what you plan to do. Too many people live under the illusion that their good intentions carry weight in the eyes of others. They believe that because they meant well, because they had a dream in their heart or a thought in their mind, people will remember them for what they wish to accomplish. But the truth is, the world is not shaped by intentions, it is shaped by actions. A man may intend to keep his promises, but if he repeatedly breaks them, the pattern becomes clear and his reputation becomes one of unreliability. A woman may intend to live with discipline, but if she continually chooses comfort over commitment, her reputation is not of someone disciplined, but of someone inconsistent. It's the daily choices, the small, repeated behaviors that write the script of your reputation. If you think about it, people are always watching, not in the sense of spying or judging you every second, but in the sense that they notice patterns. They notice if you always arrive 5 minutes late. They notice if you always cut corners. They notice if you always deliver more than expected. They may not mention it right away, but over time the pattern becomes so obvious that it defines you in their mind. That definition, whether good or bad, becomes your reputation. The mistake many make is believing that one grand gesture will override the weight of repeated small actions. Someone might think, well, if I do something extraordinary once, people will overlook the rest. But that is not how reputation works. A generous gift may surprise people for a moment, but if stinginess is the pattern, stinginess is the reputation. An apology may soften a wound, but if betrayal is repeated, betrayal is the reputation. People are not fooled by a single action, they are persuaded by consistency. Consider the workplace. A person may have the best qualifications on paper, but if they repeatedly miss deadlines, the qualification matters less than the pattern of behavior. Another employee, perhaps less talented, shows up every day, completes their tasks, honors commitments, and soon they are trusted more, valued more, because consistency outweighs raw talent. Patterns are stronger than promises. You can promise excellence, but if your pattern is mediocrity, your reputation will be mediocrity. Think of athletes. The ones remembered and respected are not those who had one incredible game or one shining season, but those who built patterns of performance year after year. The reputation of greatness is chiseled through repetition. Practice repeated daily, discipline repeated every season, choices repeated until they formed an identity. And so it is with you and me. Our reputations are not written in our dreams, they are carved in our habits. Intentions may sound noble when spoken, but they dissolve in memory if not backed by consistent action. You could say, I plan to start a business. But if the pattern is procrastination, your reputation is someone who talks but never acts. You could say, I want to be healthier. But if the pattern is late nights, skipped exercise, and poor diet, your reputation will not reflect your intention but your reality. People remember what you do, not what you say you'll do. This is why small actions matter so much. They may seem insignificant in the moment, but once repeated, they accumulate into reputation. One kind word may not define you, but a pattern of kindness will. One broken promise may be forgiven, but a pattern of broken promises will define you. One disciplined day may be forgotten, but a pattern of discipline will shape how the world sees you. Repetition is the chisel that sculpts your image in the minds of others, stroke by stroke, day by day. Even in personal relationships, patterns shape reputation. A friend who always listens, always shows up, always remembers to check in. Over time, that pattern becomes their reputation as a loyal friend. Another who disappears when things get tough, who fails to follow through, who speaks more than they act. Over time, that pattern becomes their reputation as unreliable. Intentions may exist on both sides, but it's the patterns that people hold on to because patterns are predictable, and reputation is the prediction people make about your future behavior based on your past behavior. Reputation is nothing more than the sum of your repetitions. It is the evidence of who you are, built not in a day, but in the daily. And while intentions are private, patterns are public. Nobody sees the thoughts you planned but never acted upon. Nobody remembers the goals you set but abandoned. What they see, what they remember, what they attach to your name is what you did repeatedly. The weight of this truth should be both sobering and empowering. Sobering, because it reminds us that we cannot hide behind excuses or intentions. Empowering, because it shows us that reputation is in our control, shaped by the choices we repeat. If you want to be seen as honest, tell the truth consistently, not just when it's convenient. If you want to be known as dependable, show up consistently, not just when you feel like it. If you want to be respected, act with respect consistently, not just when it serves your interest. Patterns are powerful because they build trust. Trust is never the result of a single promise. It is the result of repeated fulfillment of promises. People trust patterns, not words. A reputation of trustworthiness is built brick by brick, commitment by commitment, consistency by consistency. And once built, it opens doors, attracts opportunities, and creates influence that a single action never could. At the same time, patterns can erode trust. If dishonesty is repeated, dishonesty becomes expected. If carelessness is repeated, carelessness becomes your label. The tragedy is that once a negative pattern takes root, it takes much longer to undo. It is not impossible, but it requires new repetitions, stronger repetitions, and the patience to rebuild what was lost. What shapes your reputation is not the grand vision of what you want to become, but the small, repeated actions of who you are each day. People will remember you not for the speech you gave about your dreams, but for the consistent behavior they observed when you thought no one was watching. And the truth is, someone is always watching because patterns cannot be hidden forever. Every repeated action, good or bad, etches your reputation deeper like a chisel carving stone. Human behavior is never isolated. What you do once may pass unnoticed. What you do twice may spark curiosity, but what you do repeatedly becomes your signature. The mind of others works like stone under the pressure of the chisel. Each choice, each action, each habit is a stroke. Little by little, without realizing it, you are sculpting how people see you, and that sculpture grows more permanent with every repetition. If you think about a craftsman chiseling stone, you realize that no single strike shapes the statue. It's the repeated blows, each one steady, each one intentional, that eventually reveal the form hidden inside the block. That's how reputation works. It's not about one moment of excellence or one moment of failure, but about the repeated actions that slowly expose the truth of your character. Repetition reveals what is real, because repetition cannot be faked for long. Do something kind once, and people may thank you. Do it consistently, and you become known as kind. Fail to deliver once, and it may be overlooked. Fail to deliver repeatedly, and you become known as unreliable. Speak the truth once, and it might be appreciated. Speak it over and over, no matter the cost, and you become known as trustworthy. What you repeat, you become. And what you become is what others believe about you. The power of repetition lies in its ability to erase doubt. A single good action could be luck. A single mistake could be misfortune. But when actions are repeated, they form a pattern, and patterns silence questions. If you are consistently generous, people don't wonder if generosity was an accident. If you are consistently late, people don't wonder if it was bad traffic. Repetition closes the debate. It says, this is who you are. It is easy to underestimate the effect of small, repeated behaviors. For example, showing up 5 minutes late may seem trivial, but if you do it every time, that 5 minutes becomes your reputation. People may stop trusting your promises because your actions have proven you cannot be depended on for punctuality. On the other hand, consistently showing up early communicates respect. Reliability and discipline? It's not the 5 minutes that matter. It's the repeated stroke of the chisel that carves the image others hold of you. The same is true in how you speak. A word spoken once may fade. But if you repeatedly complain, you become known as a complainer. If you repeatedly encourage, you become known as an encourager. If you repeatedly criticize harshly, you become known as harsh. Words, repeated, build a voice that speaks even when you are silent, because your reputation will speak for you. This principle carries over to every area of life. In business, a company's reputation is not built on one product launch, but on the consistency of quality, service, and delivery over time. A restaurant doesn't earn loyalty because of one good meal, but because every time a customer returns, the experience matches or exceeds expectation. Likewise, your personal reputation in business is not built on a single deal, but on how you handle deal after deal, year after year. Repetition is what turns a business into a brand, and a person into a reputation. Think about relationships. A parent can't win the trust of a child with one gesture of love. It comes from years of repeated care, repeated presence, repeated commitment. A spouse doesn't build trust with one act of fidelity, but through the repetition of loyalty day after day. A friend doesn't become dependable by showing up once, but by showing up again and again, in joy and in struggle. Love is felt in moments, but reputation in relationships is carved through repetition. The danger lies in forgetting that bad repetitions carve just as deeply as good ones. Dishonesty repeated becomes who you are in the minds of others. Anger repeated becomes the image you carry, even if you only think you lose your temper occasionally. Laziness, repeated, shapes the stone of your reputation far more than your occasional bursts of effort. The stone does not care whether the chisel cuts a noble shape or a flawed one. It only knows that with each stroke, the image becomes clearer. And once an image is carved deeply, it is not easily erased. That is why patterns of behavior matter so much more than single actions. A mistake can be forgiven, but a repeated mistake becomes an expectation. Excellence can be admired, but repeated excellence becomes a brand. People build their decisions about you not on your best moments, but on your repeated moments. Even history teaches this. Great leaders are remembered not for single speech, but for a lifetime of repeated courage and service. Inventors are remembered not for a single experiment, but for the repetition of work, trial, and persistence. On the other hand, some names are tarnished forever because of repeated patterns of corruption, cruelty, or failure to honor trust. The record of history is written in repetition. Your life, too, is a record of repetition. Every day you are chiseling. Every conversation, every promise kept or broken, every effort given or withheld is another strike on the stone. You may not feel the impact after a single strike, but over time the form emerges. People start to say, "That's just who he is," or "That's the kind of person she is." They are not basing that conclusion on your intentions. They are basing it on the repeated strokes they've observed. That's why the question is never, "What do I want to be known for?" but rather, "What am I repeating?" Because whatever you repeat becomes what you are known for. You can declare your values all day long, but if your repetitions don't match, the chisel tells the truth. You can claim integrity, but if dishonesty is repeated, integrity is not your reputation. You can claim discipline, but if indulgence is repeated, discipline is not your reputation. If you want to reshape your reputation, you must reshape your repetitions. Change one action, and the stone barely shifts. But change an action and repeat it long enough, and the stone begins to take on a new form. The challenge is that repetition demands patience. Just as a sculptor does not see the finished statue in the first 100 strikes, you may not see your reputation shift immediately. But keep chiseling with new habits, new choices, new repetitions, and eventually the image will change. The power of this truth lies in its fairness. No one can build a reputation overnight, but everyone can build one over time. The chisel is in every hand, and the strokes are in every choice. Good or bad, noble or careless, the stone remembers each repetition, and the world reads the stone as your reputation. Trust and respect come from small habits practiced daily, not from one-time efforts. Too often people believe that a single act of generosity, a single moment of brilliance, or a single display of discipline will earn them a lasting reputation of character. But trust and respect are not built in grand gestures. They are built quietly, steadily, in the small details of daily behavior. People watch the little things more closely than the big things because the little things reveal who you really are when you are not trying to impress anyone. Trust is not given, it is earned, and the currency is consistency. If you say good morning to your team every day with sincerity, if you follow through on the smallest promises, if you handle the tiniest responsibilities with care, people begin to trust that you will do the same with the bigger things. On the other hand, if you brush off small commitments, if you are careless with details, if you neglect small courtesies, people will hesitate to place greater trust in you. The way you treat the small is always a preview of how you will treat the large. Respect works the same way. People don't respect you because of a single inspiring speech, but because of the way you carry yourself every day, the way you treat others regardless of their status, the way you consistently act with dignity and discipline. One respectful act might impress, but a lifetime of respectful habits earns true admiration. A leader who remembers names, who keeps small confidences, who makes time to listen even when busy, gains respect far beyond one who tries to win it through one-time acts of inspiration. The truth is, small habits accumulate. They may seem insignificant in isolation, but repeated daily, they form a foundation that others can stand on with confidence. Think of punctuality. Arriving on time once doesn't matter much, but arriving on time every day signals discipline, reliability, and respect for other people's time. That small habit builds trust. Think of honesty. Telling the truth once may pass unnoticed, but telling the truth again and again, even when it costs you something, builds a reputation for integrity that people can rely on. Small habits, repeated, build trust as surely as bricks build a wall. When you think about those you respect most, chances are it's not because of one dramatic moment. It's because of the consistency of their behavior over time. You respect someone who shows up for you again and again, not just once. You respect someone who treats you with fairness in every interaction, not just when it's convenient. You respect someone who honors their commitments in the small things because you know that makes them more likely to honor the big things. Respect is cumulative, and the weight comes from repetition of small habits. Even in personal relationships, trust and respect are built this way. A friend doesn't become trusted because they helped you once. They become trusted because they were there many times, in many ways, in both small and large situations. A spouse isn't respected because of one romantic gesture, but because of the daily habits of loyalty, kindness, attentiveness, and honesty. Parents earn the respect of their children not because of one lecture, but because of 1,000 small moments where words and actions lined up. Time efforts are rarely remembered. People may appreciate them in the moment, but memory fades, and what remains is the overall pattern of behavior. That is why trust can be lost quickly if small habits are neglected. Someone who has been consistently reliable can damage their reputation with a string of small lapses. People begin to say, they've changed, because the small habits they once depended on are no longer present. On the other hand, someone who starts with little trust can earn it steadily through daily actions, small commitments honored, small courtesies repeated, small disciplines practiced. In business, this principle is visible everywhere. A company doesn't earn customer loyalty because of a single great product. Loyalty comes from the repeated experience of quality service and care. A single meal at a restaurant may impress you, but it's the consistent quality every time you return that builds trust and respect. Employees don't respect leaders for one motivational meeting. They respect them for showing up daily with fairness, clarity, and support. The repetition of small habits builds confidence, and confidence builds loyalty. In your personal conduct, the same principle applies. If you want to be respected for discipline, it's not about running one marathon. It's about the daily habit of training, the discipline of choosing health, the consistency of showing up for yourself. If you want to be trusted with responsibility, it's not about delivering one successful project. It's about the steady habit of meeting deadlines, communicating clearly, and taking ownership again and again. The accumulation of these habits creates a reputation that one-time efforts cannot. Trust and respect are fragile because they rely so heavily on the repetition of small habits. One failure may not break them, but repeated neglect will. The same small habits that build trust, when ignored, slowly erode it. Forget to follow through once, people may overlook it. Forget to follow through repeatedly, and they begin to doubt you. Treat someone with respect once, they may appreciate it. Treat them with respect every day, they admire you. Neglect that respect, even in small ways, and admiration turns into suspicion. The beauty of small habits is that they are within reach of everyone. Not everyone can deliver a grand performance, not everyone can accomplish a monumental task, but everyone can practice small habits of integrity, discipline, and respect daily. Saying thank you, keeping your word, showing up prepared, being attentive, treating others fairly, none of these require wealth, status, or talent. They only require awareness and consistency. Yet over time, these small habits will do more for your reputation than any dramatic achievement. History is filled with examples of this truth. The leaders most trusted are the ones who lived by habits of integrity daily, not just in public but in private. The innovators most respected are those who labored consistently, showing discipline in the small details of their craft. Even spiritual figures are remembered not just for single acts, but for lives marked by repeated habits of humility, service, and sacrifice. Their reputations live on because their small habits became great patterns, and those patterns earn trust and respect across generations. The temptation is always to look for the big opportunity, the moment when you can impress others or earn their admiration in one sweeping act. But the reality is that people are not persuaded by moments, they are persuaded by consistency. A single spark may catch their eye, but it is the steady flame that keeps them warm. Trust and respect are not fireworks, they are the slow, steady light of a lamp that is tended daily. Repetition can rebuild a damaged reputation, but it requires time, consistency, and discipline. When someone makes mistakes, when they fail to live up to the image they once carried, it can feel as though their reputation is broken beyond repair. People talk, people judge, people remember. Yet reputation, while fragile, is not unchangeable. Just as repetition can carve a negative image, repetition can also reshape it. The difference is that repairing a reputation requires more patience and persistence than building one the first time. When someone has lost trust, the words they speak no longer carry the same weight. Promises are met with skepticism. Intentions are questioned. That is why repetition becomes the only tool strong enough to rebuild credibility. You cannot talk your way out of a reputation you behaved your way into. You must behave your way out of it with repeated actions that prove something new. Words may explain, but only consistent behavior convinces. The challenge is that people rarely forget quickly. A broken promise may linger in someone's mind long after you have moved on. A careless action may become a story repeated in circles you never hear. To shift that perception, you must replace it with a stronger pattern. If you have been unreliable, you must be reliable not once, not twice, but over and over until reliability becomes your new image. If you have been dishonest, you must choose honesty consistently, even when it costs you, until people can no longer deny the change. If you have been careless, you must practice diligence every day until carelessness no longer defines you. Think of it like repairing a crack in stone. One strike may have created the damage, but it takes many precise strokes to restore the surface. Each stroke must be intentional, steady, and patient. If you rush the process, the stone may crumble further. Rebuilding a reputation works the same way. You cannot rush people's perception. They need time to see new patterns, to watch repetition prove that change is not temporary but real. Discipline plays a central role in this process. Repetition requires discipline because it is not natural to continue doing the right thing when others are slow to acknowledge it. There will be a period when you are consistent, but people still view you through the lens of your past. That season can be discouraging, but it is essential. If you give up, you confirm their doubts. If you stay disciplined, eventually your repetition overcomes their memory of the old you. Consistency, maintained long enough, writes over old stories with new ones. This is why rebuilding reputation demands humility. You cannot demand trust back. You cannot insist that people forget. You must accept that the stone has been marked and that only steady chiseling will reshape it. Humility keeps you from becoming bitter while you do the work of repetition. It reminds you that trust is not a right, it is a reward, and respect is not automatic. It is earned again through daily habits. Many people try to repair their reputation with dramatic gestures. They make one large donation, one big apology, one grand effort, thinking it will erase the past. But just as reputation was not built in a day, it is not rebuilt in a day. The grand gesture may draw attention, but it is the quiet repetition afterward that convinces people the change is real. People are not swayed by spectacle, they are swayed by steady evidence. Consider someone who has damaged their reputation in business by being unreliable. They may try to secure one major client to prove themselves. But unless they follow through consistently with small clients, day after day, their reputation will not change. The market remembers patterns, not promises. Or think of someone who has hurt relationships by being dishonest. A single apology may begin the healing, but it is daily honesty, small truths spoken, temptations resisted, transparency practiced that rebuilds trust. Each act of honesty is another stroke of the chisel, slowly removing the cracks of deception. The time required for this process is often longer than expected. You may feel you've proven yourself after weeks or months, but others may take years to fully accept the new image. This is why discipline and patience must walk together. Discipline ensures you keep repeating the right actions even when recognition is delayed. Patience ensures you do not quit before the new pattern has taken root in the minds of others. Together, they create the only environment where a damaged reputation can be restored. History is filled with individuals who fell from favor and later rebuilt their image through sustained repetition. Some leaders lost credibility through mistakes, but through years of consistent service, discipline, and integrity, they regained the trust of the people. The public did not forgive instantly. It was the steady evidence of new behavior that eventually rewrote the story. The same principle applies to each of us. People will not remember the speech you gave about how you have changed, but they will remember the daily proof you provide through your habits. This truth also works in the opposite direction. Those who fail to discipline themselves after damage often make it worse. They grow frustrated at not being trusted quickly, so they revert to old patterns, confirming what people already believed. In doing so, they dig the crack deeper, making restoration even harder. That is why discipline is non-negotiable. Without it, repetition fails, and without repetition, reputation cannot be reshaped. The good news is that repetition is always within your control. You may not control what people think of you today, but you control the actions you repeat tomorrow. You cannot erase the past, but you can overwhelm it with a stronger future. Every honest word, every fulfilled promise, every disciplined choice becomes another stroke against the stone. Over time, the old image fades and a new one emerges. Rebuilding a reputation requires courage because it asks you to keep chiseling even when the stone shows little sign of change. It requires faith because you must believe that repetition is stronger than memory. It requires endurance because the work is daily, often unnoticed, often unappreciated in the beginning. Yet those who commit to this path discover that repetition, once again, is the most powerful sculptor of all. Your reputation travels faster than you. Opportunities arrive or disappear based on the pattern you've established. Before you walk into a room, before you sit at a table, before you shake a hand, your reputation often arrives first. People have already heard stories, observed behaviors, or experienced the result of your past actions. They carry with them an image of who you are, and that image either opens the door wider or begins to quietly close it. That is the invisible power of reputation. It is not confined to the present moment. It is the echo of your past repetition traveling ahead, of you influencing how others receive you. When someone introduces you to a colleague, they rarely do so without context. They say, "This person is reliable," or "Be careful, he doesn't always follow through." Those words are not based on what you plan to do tomorrow, but on the patterns you've shown yesterday and the day before. Your reputation is your advance representative, and it speaks before you ever utter a word. In some cases, it works like a key, unlocking new chances, because people feel they already know they can trust you. In other cases, it works like a lock, shutting down possibilities, because people believe they already know what to expect. This is why opportunities are not given randomly. A company doesn't offer a role just because someone applied. They look at reputation, references, patterns of behavior. A client doesn't trust their business to someone unknown. They look for proof of reliability. Even friendships and partnerships form this way. People decide how close they want to be, not by your promises, but by your reputation. If they've heard stories of loyalty, they move closer. If they've heard stories of betrayal, they step back. Reputation spreads because people talk about patterns. Rarely do they say, "He did this once." More often they say, "He always does this," or "She never does that." Those words, always and never, are the language of reputation. They summarize repetition into identity. And once those words attach to your name, they travel further than you do. You may not even know the circles where your reputation has reached, but it is there, shaping opinions, influencing decisions, either clearing a path or placing obstacles. The speed of reputation is both a danger and an advantage. The danger is that one negative pattern repeated can spread quickly, creating walls you cannot see until you bump into them. Someone may decline to work with you, not because of anything you said directly, but because your reputation arrived before you. The advantage, however, is that a positive reputation also spreads, often further than you expect. Opportunities you never asked for may come to you simply because your reputation prepared the way. A door may open in a room you have never entered because your name carried trust before you did. This truth is especially powerful in leadership. A leader cannot be everywhere at once, but their reputation is. Employees, partners, and customers make decisions daily based on what they believe about that leader's integrity, fairness, and discipline. If the reputation is strong, it extends influence far beyond presence. If the reputation is weak, the leader's authority erodes even in their absence. That is why reputation becomes the silent partner in every negotiation, every meeting, every opportunity. Consider the difference between two professionals entering the same room. One carries a reputation of excellence, of keeping promises, of treating people with respect. The moment they arrive, the room responds with trust, openness, and readiness to collaborate. The other carries a reputation of carelessness, of cutting corners, of saying one thing and doing another. The moment they arrive, the room responds with suspicion, hesitation, and guardedness. Both may speak the same words, but the response is determined by the reputation that arrived first. This is why your reputation must be guarded with as much care as your work itself, because your work may be seen by a few, but your reputation is heard by many. You may think you are only dealing with one client, one colleague, one friend, but their experience becomes part of your reputation, and they carry it to others. That story travels faster than you do. It reaches ears you will never meet, and those ears may be attached to the very people who could have given you your next opportunity. Opportunities rarely announce themselves in advance. They often come quietly in the form of a call, an invitation, a recommendation, and the decision to extend that call or not is often based on reputation. Someone in the room says, "I know someone perfect for this," or "No, don't bring them in, they can't be trusted." You are not there to argue, not there to explain, not there to defend yourself. Your reputation is there in your place, doing the talking for you. And once a decision is made, you may never even know it was made. The opportunity is gone before you even realized it was close. Reputation is also what lingers when you leave. People will replay their experience of you, not in isolated snapshots, but in patterns. They will say, "Every time we dealt with him, he was thorough," or "She always made excuses." They won't remember every detail of what you said, but they will remember the consistency of how you behaved. That memory shapes how they talk about you later, and that talk becomes the reputation that travels further than you. Even in personal life, this principle holds true. Your reputation as a friend, a partner, a family member travels through circles of conversation. If your name comes up, the tone of voice people use reveals your reputation. They may say it with warmth because you have built a pattern of kindness. They may say it with caution because you have built a pattern of unreliability. Long before you enter a new relationship, your reputation has already introduced you. That introduction may be favorable or unfavorable, depending on what you have repeated in the past. Reputation is like a shadow cast ahead of you. You may not see it, but others do. It shapes their expectations before you arrive. It prepares their attitude toward you, whether welcoming or defensive. And because it is built on repetition, it often feels more real to them than your words in the moment. You may say, "Trust me," but if your reputation says otherwise, your words cannot overcome it. You may say, "I've changed." But if your repetition has not yet proven it, your reputation holds more weight. The influence of reputation is why small habits matter so deeply. Because every action, every choice, every repeated behavior feeds into the story that travels ahead of you. Integrity repeated becomes trust that runs before you. Discipline repeated becomes respect that clears your path. Carelessness repeated becomes suspicion that blocks your way. Whether you realize it or not, you are constantly sending your reputation ahead as your messenger, and that messenger is either preparing the way or closing the gate.